evening, everybody. Good evening, Burmese. Good evening, Guyana. It's another wonderful Saturday evening, and we're so happy to be here in your homes, right here, chatting with you. We got a really interesting program lined up. Tonight, we're just talking and chatting about all kinds of things happening. And I know one of the positive things that I'm sure my two colleagues, we've got Devin Sears, Member of Parliament, and a special treat tonight. He is not in the ring, he is with us. So I'm so excited to have Sherrod Duncan, Mr. Ring himself, right here with us on the Lines on the Move.
Thank you,
So,
Kathy. Thank you so much.
welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
So let me ask you all, this whole, since Wednesday, the country is all on the cricket, all on the
Yes, it
CPL,
is.
and we are happy we're doing well. Tell me if
Yes.
you guys have been watching the cricket and how are you feeling tonight?
Uh, Go ahead, David.
Yeah, feeling very excited, optimistic, but we were in this position before, especially reaching all the way to the finals and then dropping the ball. But we're optimistic, and as you can see, Kathy, there are many persons trying different things, going to the game and taking garlic, onion, seasoning, the Bible, all sorts of things. So I guess at this stage, anything helps the Warriors. But I'm really excited and happy.
Absolutely. And Sherrod, you've been
Like
into the
like
cricket.
like like David, I'm pulling for the home team.
Mhm.
It's a long haul. We've been here before, as David say. I kind of guard my mental health and my blood pressure and so on jealously. So I just try to catch like the highlights and so on and
Yes,
save myself.
yes. No, no,
Otherwise,
no. I think we're going to think positive. You
Yeah, we
know,
have to.
yes,
the
yes.
previous occasions was just a lot of good practice.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
fingers crossed, we're going to bring it home this time.
Finger and some toes.
Yes, some toes,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
Everything you could cross.
yeah.
So, guys,
Indeed.
I've been thinking on a lot of things as many Guyanese are.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I have been a little concerned about is that we now have this extra money. Imagine that there are countries in the world today that are still battling the negative economic impacts of COVID, still worrying about how the countries is going to grow. Very small, low digits growth rates. I mean, most countries in the world, if they're able to get a 6% or a 7% growth rate, they're excited and
Yeah,
feeling positive.
yeah.
And so I am worried tonight because they keep telling us that we are going to be the next Dubai. Our growth rates are going out of the charts. We pass more than a 20%. We pass a 30%. I think they're saying we're heading now to almost a 40%. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
correct, correct.
Right. So, why is it that we're not seeing this impact in our communities, in the way we begin to do things? Because we no longer can use the excuse that we don't have money.
Yeah.
We got the money that's coming from oil, and we
Yeah,
thank the gods
certainly,
above for
certainly.
Mhm.
giving us such a gift. But
Mhm.
we want to see more of it spent in our communities so ordinary Guyanese start to see and to feel the positive impact an oil
Yeah.
and gas industry could have.
Mhm.
But we're not seeing that. And I think one of the main mistakes is that although we want to focus on oil, even the president himself, even President Irfan Ali spoke about the importance of maintaining our other sectors.
That's right.
Of course, they talk about the importance of a non-oil, um, those non-oil sectors, and ensuring there's growth in those non-oil sectors. And the non-oil sectors are our traditional sectors: rice, sugar, bauxite,
Yes.
gold, and those are the ones that still got to make money to
Mhm.
keep everybody that's employed in those sectors going. So there have been some really disheartening things happening in those sectors. So, Sharad, let me start with you. I know you're seeing and you've been talking about the rice sector, fishing. You want to give us some of your thoughts on the lack of growth in those areas?
Thanks, Kathy. We had a mid-year report to contend with. The Ministry of Finance mid-year the financial report, the country's books, are open to us through those reports. And what they're indicating, Kathy, is that you have a lot of sectors that are down. As you said, the rice production is down, the sugar
Mhm.
production is down, and badly too. It's not just down, very,
Yeah,
very badly. Uh,
yeah.
Gold is barely making it. You got manufacturing is down. Fisheries, fishing, is down as well. And from some of the indications we've been having from the administration, all is not well at all. All is not well. So definitely the non-oil sector is struggling. And so I think it was Vincent Jordan who called it very early, who said we have operating the Dutch disease, where the non-oil sector is suffering, and the only thing holding everybody up is the oil and gas, and that's
Mhm.
what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing.
Yep, yep. Now we want to go to the other side of our country, and in case you don't know, Devon Sayers is the member of parliament and the representative for Region 10. So,
Yes.
Devon, I know bauxite has been the foundation of our economy
Yeah.
decades ago. Tell
Mhm.
us how bauxite as an industry is doing.
Well, yeah, sure. But I just want to touch on one important point before I get to that,
Sure,
Kathy.
sure.
With Guyana being the having the 17th largest oil reserve in the world, rightfully we expect more. We expect the country to be booming in all sectors, but unfortunately, it's not. That is not happening. One of the primary reasons that is not happening is because the other arms of government are not functioning properly. So we don't have that money and that investment going directly to the common man, to the common Guyanese.
Mhm.
So even the local government arm, the municipalities, the NECs, they are not being funded properly. They're being underfunded, underserved, and the government is to blame. The PPP government is to blame. You have to invest at those levels, um, local and regional, so that we can get the best for our people. While we were in government, the APNU AFC paid attention to those arms. In fact, it was the APNU AFC, to our viewers out there, that brought back local government elections,
Yeah.
because we
Mhm.
needed to reach to that have that bottom up approach. But now with this government, we're seeing a top down approach, or a central government approach. The central government, through the Ministry of Local and Regional Development, they're going into communities and telling the people what they got to get, instead of the people telling the local authority and then work the way up. So what we're seeing here is a massa approach, right?
Mhm.
This is not a democracy anymore, and that is what is happening with regards to good governance. Here in Region 10, it's no different. We are predominantly, of course, of Afro Guyanese, and we feel slighted. We feel excited when we look around at the massive developments that are happening across the various regions, which is predominantly, Indo-Guyanese. They are getting proper roads, drainage, lights, infrastructure, but up here we are getting next to nothing. The bauxite industry, Kathy, has played its role in this country's development. Over 100 years of bauxite uh, to date. I think it's probably 110 years now. We started mining somewhere around 1916, and it is still the largest entity which focuses on employment within the region. We have
Mhm.
just about 600 persons who are employed by the bauxite industry. They have invested some $25 million US to expand. So that is working pretty okay. But then when we go to the other part of the region, Araima, Oruro, and Kokwani, with the likes of Russo, when Russo left, the community left with a shell. There is nothing, no economic development going into that community. So you find the residents there are doing all sorts of odd jobs just to get by.
Mhm.
When they Russell pulled out, they pulled out investment. They pulled out even buses which used to transport the students to school. They pulled out maintenance of the river. Right now, the river needs to be dredged. The government is doing it. Hence, we are having a lot of flooding. So with bauxite, I believe a lot of attention needs to be paid to bauxite. um, the government needs to look for investments. While we were in government, the APNU AFC had a task force assigned with working with the management of Russo, along with the union, and they were strategizing how to get bauxite up and running within that community. But
Mhm.
I don't believe the PPP government sees bauxite as being important anymore, because we're blinded by the money that is coming from our oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
And
think, go ahead, Cheryl.
if I can jump in there, I
Sure.
know where Devon is also that tourism is extremely important, and the
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
actual AFC government was making strides, rehabilitating one the Wichuku guest house. You had
Yes.
the government house at Kokwani also that was
Mm-hmm.
rehabilitated, and I
Mhm.
was made to understand there was something they were going to do with the old train track and that old train that's still there
Yes.
to
And the
bring
water
tourism
wheel.
and the
Yes.
Watcher Wheel and Blue Lake and all of that. Now, all of that seems at a standstill. So even tourism
Mm-hmm.
that has the potential to make money needs some serious investment in the region too. And I know this is Devon's forte, tourism.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And let me plug in and say that one of the investments that we tend to forget that took place in Region 10
Mhm.
was the refurbishing and the development of that call center.
That's right.
Correct.
Mhm. Yes.
That was almost like my baby
Hmm.
because we were the ones in 2017 that put the in first cost into the
Yes.
budget in 2017 and 2018. We budgeted the funds to refurbish that call center.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yes.
And by now, and even I know on several occasions, we got the architects up, we went in there,
Yes.
we moved all the old equipment. And I am happy that this administration was smart enough to continue that project.
Yep.
But
But
we got to
but
put credit where it's due. It
Hmm.
was a brainchild of ours.
but
Yes.
Kathy, I want to add to that, and Devon would know this even more than I do. We've been getting some very terrible reports from the
Yes.
workers there about the treatment.
Yeah, yep,
Mhm.
yep,
Yeah. The,
yep.
the treatment there is beyond terrible. It's kind of like it seems like a slave camp. At least that is what some of those persons who work there are saying. They moved from 150 employees down to 18.
Oh my
18.
goodness.
One of the reasons why is because they're being underpaid. They're being
Wow,
grossly underpaid, and
wow.
you have to be working for long hours, and the treatment wasn't good.
Yep.
And we have reached out through the Regional Democratic Council, reached out to the owner,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, there's no remedy in sight. And
Oh no.
we were informed that he's looking for alternatives in terms of investment. So I believe pretty soon, fearing the worst, the call center might be closed down again, and we have a whole bunch of young people without jobs. So
That
they're talking about opportunities for young people and all these things. It's not there. It's not real. It's a farce.
Yep, and
yeah.
don't let us even talk, Kathy and Devon, about the
About the
part-time
temporary,
jobs in
yeah, the
region.
temporary jobs.
That's another
Yes.
story.
That's
Yes.
another thing.
Yes. And that is where, we can see that the focus of this government seems to be on the big projects.
Yeah.
The multi-million, 200 million US, 500 million US, 567 million US
Mhm.
projects, the big
Yeah.
infrastructure projects that we know realistically can get started.
Yeah.
But if we go back, as you were saying, on the local government level,
Mhm.
it was actually the APNU AFC that increased the subvention that
Yes.
most of the local government authorities got. They used to get around 3 million, 4 million, and I
Yes.
think we took it to
16.
6 million,
16.
16
16.
million. Wow. I didn't
Yeah.
even realize it was that much. So
Mhm.
that's a huge jump. And this is where, if you want to really develop communities, you got to give the money to the local authorities so they can fix the roads, they can fix
Mhm.
the school, the nursery school,
Mhm.
the drains, the irrigation in lands. That is where the money has to go. And I always remember Mr. Mandela saying that the measure and worth of a government, the success of a government, the caring attitude of a government must be reflected in how it treats its people. Not the big
That's right.
infrastructure projects, how
Mhm.
it treats its people. And even I know you were saying that there's an issue in terms of Region 10 feeling that not enough is being given to them
Yeah.
vis-a-vis other regions. But I will tell you, I have gone to some places in
Mhm.
Region 6
Yeah.
and in Region Parika Dam and several areas where in the same areas that we think are their strongholds, they're not
Mhm.
treating the people well. you know.
Wow, look at that.
So this is a clearly an attitude that
Yeah.
comes across.
And
And
Kathy,
yeah.
might I add there, it
Mhm,
was Alan Gulsaran, former Auditor General, who told this country inadvertently when he pointed out the big failing projects of the country's history.
mhm,
All of them were under the PPP. So,
Hmm.
we ought not to get excited when we hear about these big projects because they don't have a good track record. That's the point I want to make. Skeldon
Right.
Sugar Factory, the fiber optic cable, even Chelly
Hmm.
Jagan International Airport is listed as a failed project by Anand Guljaran.
yeah.
Pointing out several prerequisites that it fails,
Mhm,
and the list goes on. Project after project after project is considered,
Yeah.
and this is Anand Gulcharan, who is revered for his kind of thinking and being a man of the
yeah.
numbers and so on
Yeah.
in this regard. So I'm not excited, and I don't think people in this country are excited when they hear about this show base and this happening and big hotel and so on under these lights here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a
But
good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because the other thing that is absolutely clear from that assessment that Mr. Gulsaran made is that most of those projects, all if not all of them,
All of them,
are
he said.
projects of the vice president.
Yeah,
And
correct,
so when everybody
correct.
thinks
The
that
one
he is,
laptop for family, but
that's right, one
but
yes,
not
laptop
yes.
per
the other ones.
family.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when everybody think he's some guru at economics, we gotta look at how much money those projects put into the coffers.
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
know, it is sad.
yeah.
We um we have always been very committed to the sugar workers and their plight.
Hmm.
Sugar is part of our history.
Yeah.
I remember as a teenager spending time at IFLUT. I used to spend all the Easter holidays at IFLUT because the manager then was a very good friend of my parents. So we went to IFLUT. So we all grew up knowing and understanding the importance of sugar. But we got to right size it,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
if it's not working and we can see how those numbers have gone down and down and down, and the money that is being put into the sector, the sugar workers are not getting it. And we
Yeah.
know that for sure because this week we saw a protest from the sugar workers in Blairmont and Iflot,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
They were on strike,
yeah,
and they were on strike because
yeah.
they were not getting a fair wage. And worse yet,
Hmm.
what their strike highlighted was that there is an unequal distribution in terms of their salaries. So the
Yeah.
point they were making is that some people are getting one salary, other people are getting another, and some people are allowed to write a test that, if they do well, gives them a higher salary. But everybody that
Doing the
should be
same
in
job.
the same group were not being treated fairly.
Yeah.
And I think that is a major problem that we have in Guyana today, where several groups are upset, offended, because there isn't a fairness. We've
Hmm.
seen that with the
Yeah,
allocation of the
yeah.
cash grants too.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, my friends, let's talk a bit about that. The unequal distribution, and we saw it with the cash grants, saw it with
Yeah,
the agricultural workers. It seems to be a tendency, this government only gives to their friends and family, and we don't set a level playing field that everybody could benefit from. Is that correct?
Of course, it's correct, and it is evident even up here in Region 10 when the flood grants were distributed. Right, being real, most of the PPP folks are supporters. They got, while those that supported the AP and UAFC did not get. Even with the farm grant distribution, some persons who got a flower plant in the yard got hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
But the person who
correct,
got a real
correct.
farm, who's been sweating and
yeah.
doing what they have to do, they got nothing or a little bit amount. So there's unfairness even with the distribution of our taxpayers' money,
Mhm.
right? And this is something that we have not only look into, but we got to stand up against. Once you're giving
Correct.
to one, you got to give to all,
Mhm.
right? Despite of who you support, despite of what, all right? And up here in Linden and Region 10, like I said, we have been representing our people as much as possible. But the government seems to not even care or budge. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know what?
Yeah.
David and Kathy, I'm happy with something Kathy said earlier. It's not only necessarily, I would say, Apple AFC communities, but Kathy made a point earlier on some of their own communities. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
they have neglected where
Yeah.
this is concerned, and not necessarily with the cash grants. Look, we were talking to the folks at Peters Hall recently who were flooded
Mm-hmm.
out. No fault of theirs. The coca
Mm-hmm.
was run down, dilapidated. Nobody took the time to repair it. And so when the tide came in, it couldn't function properly. Flood the people out there. They said they had a lot of money in damages, millions in damages. And
Yeah.
believe it or not, they said no one from the administration has come to see them as yet. And this is close to two
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
Close to 2 weeks
Okay.
now, right? Close to 2 weeks,
Yeah.
right? And nobody has come to see them. They said millions in damages. And of course, Kathy, because they are in tune with what's happening in your country, they make a point. But when you had a little thing happening at I don't want to qualify it necessarily as a little thing, but when you had Monrepo happen, where those folks were allegedly robbed and so on, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the afternoon, money is there. Two
Mm-hmm.
weeks later, nobody's gone into Providence and Peters Hall trying to find out how these people's lives have been disrupted. I was there,
Yeah.
Kathy, on the ground. And
Yeah.
nobody should be asked to live like that. People
Yeah.
totally flooded out.
Mm-hmm.
The couches underwater,
Mm-hmm.
their fridge
Yeah.
stove
The fridges. I
underwater,
saw the
and
fridge. Mm-hmm.
they're trying to dig themselves out from that. Their wares in the little cabinets and so on, underwater with mud and muck. Nobody has gone to see them, and
Mhm.
that's just another
Yeah.
day. And so you got the
Mm-hmm.
cash grant that is so unevenly distributed, the hampers and all that. And this is an era. Yes, you got the big opulence of the CPL happening, but a lot of folks can't go there because one, they can't afford it. They're just
Mm-hmm.
distracted by the daily living. They got to choose whether they want to CPL or they can put a plate of food on the table tomorrow. That is the
Mm-hmm.
challenge that lots of Guyanese are facing. They are hurting, Kathy. And I've heard you
Yeah.
made the point that people say Jagdu is a guru and he bright. Well, how come the economy looking the way it look at everything down and they're supposed to be experts in
Yeah.
sugar and rice and fish
Yeah.
production and all of that. All of those sectors are down. And I dare
Yeah.
say, Kathy, had it not been for you and the David Granger-led administration and the other ministers, his team of ministers, who
Mm.
put together the framework that we can benefit today from the oil and gas sector, God knows we would have been
What would
as a
happen?
country.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
knows.
And Sharon, you remind me of the IMF giving a report in 2020. And folks, this is something that we have to read. Sometimes we forget these things. But the IMF gave one of the best and most positive reports in 2019 about Guyana being the fastest growing economy. Do you
Yeah.
remember that one? I'm sorry
Yes.
I don't have it to
Yeah, it
pull
was
it
about
up, but if you go
56%.
online,
It was
it
about
was
56%.
Guyana being the
Yeah.
that's right, fastest growing economy. And what was interesting is that all the
In the
sectors were
world.
just
Let me put that
right in the world, exactly. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
all the sectors were moving. And that was
Mhm.
before we'd only just started oil production.
Right.
So it's not that all that growth was attributed to the oil and gas industry. These are our other sectors that were just doing
Yeah. Yeah.
great,
Yeah.
Rice was
doing
doing great.
well,
As a matter of fact, I think
you
the
know?
best rice production was under Apple AFC, if not sugar too. Fish was
Yes.
doing good. And all of these sectors were doing great. And all of that, folks, is in the 2020 budget that was read in September of 2020 by Ashley Singh. He was reporting
Mm.
on the sectors, and we could pull that information and show you. In addition to that, Kathy, I don't want to miss
Mhm.
this point. They said how they are so bright. Winston Jordan, former finance minister, had inflation at 0.9 in
Mhm.
Yeah.
2020. 0.9. Inflation right now is somewhere between 8 and 10%. That is
Yeah.
why when
Yeah.
you go to the shop, the same money you're earning, doing less.
Mhm.
Catchy.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's why we make the point. People are hurting. You got to decide, I
Yeah.
go CPL or them children go to
Or.
school Monday.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So
And
Sharon,
yeah,
I paid $250 for 3 strands of Bora.
Mhm.
You got
Seriously
a
though,
lot. You got a lot.
three
Wow.
three little strands.
Yes.
Wow.
For I was doing some chow mein today for lunch,
Yeah.
and I literally just ran
Wow.
out up on the road and just pick up some,
Yeah.
and three
Yeah.
strands,
Yeah.
250.
Well,
A
Kathy, I would
po-
have
uh,
you know, I
mhm.
would have you know, you live in a bushy life. Because for the ingredients to make a proper chow mein, I ain't see chow mein in a long time. Bora and little carrots and little, you know,
uh,
I ain't see chow mein in a little while.
Well, no, oh gosh, I'm
Sharon,
feeling bad now. I did
no,
cook chow mein.
feel
Now I
feel
wish I could. Now I wish I could send some chow mein for you, because
yeah.
I
Please
cook
and
a
thank
whole
you.
pack.
Please and
Yeah,
thank you.
Center
Yes,
Region Center. Well, Kathy and Sharon, a lot of us have to turn vegans because meat and all is
Yeah.
very, very expensive,
yes,
Yeah.
right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Chicken has gone up. Eggs, $80 for one egg up here.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
So
It's crazy.
Kathy,
I
I'm
hope.
happy you did mention that. I'm so happy because we didn't touch that when we touched on sugar dung. Like when
Mhm.
in the history of the country we saw people lining up for sugar
Yes,
shortage.
I
You know,
never,
know.
we
never.
we, we are there,
Yeah,
Kathy. We are
yeah,
there. But you know what? You know what is my fear? We get numb to the
Hmm.
crisis we're in. You
yep,
know, every day trying to see how we can get by. You know,
yep,
rent going up
Hmm.
every day,
yep, yep.
Yes.
and the salary being less and less and less and less and less
Hmm.
all the time.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
We're in a
mhm.
bad place. I don't want to over exaggerate it, but it cannot be
Yep,
overemphasized. We're just in a bad place, and a lot of families, Kathy, are hurting. We talked
yep,
early on about the part-time job. I saw, I think it was Susan Rodriguez. I think it was, who was making an argument with the Region 10 Vice Chair, part-time job as against temporary job, and she's making the point that these are part-time jobs, not temporary jobs, and part-time jobs has security. I don't know security what, if you're guarding or what, but she said
No.
part-time job got security. But I want to make the point that even with those part-time jobs, we have heard people say you work the 10 days and they're paying you for 2 and 3,
Hmm.
and then you don't get no NIS.
Yeah.
yep,
So you could work
yep.
for 5 years part-time and you got nothing going to NIS.
That's
Hmm.
You
right.
retire
And then
and
you
you
don't
wonder
have your
how you can't get.
contributions.
That is it.
Hmm.
Yep,
That is it.
yep,
I just thought I'd stick that in there. Apologies.
yep. No, that's a very important point, because Sharon, even with the cash grants that they give out, right? What a lot of people forget. I mean, we know, let's be honest, they will say, oh gosh, other governments, APNU AFC, never give a 50,000, they never give a 30,000, they never
Yeah.
give 120,000.
Mm,
But we give increases on your salary.
Hmm.
First of all, you were confirmed, so you were full time, and your salary was increased. So it meant that and the largest increase, remember, was up to 70 something percent. It went from 43,000 all the way up to 70 something thousand dollars
And
$73.
in the minimum
inherited,
wage.
Kathy, don't
Yeah.
rush over that. We inherited it at 43,000 from under them after
Yeah.
23 years.
Yes,
After
Yes.
23 years, and
that's right.
without oil revenues, the, every year there was an increase. Every
Yeah.
year,
Exactly.
without oil.
Enough.
Exactly.
Don't forget the reduction of the VAT from 16 to 14%
That's right.
as well.
That's right. So that is exactly what we were saying at the start of this discussion. How come you could get an increase, and such a large increase,
Mhm.
Yes.
every
Yes.
single year in just the 5 year, 4 years APNU AFC was in there? You got, and everybody got it on your
Mhm.
salary, which meant that your
Kathy, is
pension, your
leadership.
NIS, everything,
It
as
Mhm.
comes
opposed,
down. It comes
as,
down to leadership, Kathy. At the end of the
it
day,
does.
it comes
It
down to
does.
Yeah.
leadership. I just want to point out a couple of things for us.
Sure.
Look at that. Look at that road link between Georgetown, between Mandela Avenue and the East Bank now.
Yeah.
A beautiful idea that started under the Avenue AFC. Let me put it out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Executed by these folks. But look at the confusion. There's not a day there's not an accident on that road. A car
Yeah.
runs over. There are no guardrails on that road.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's no space for pedestrians on
Mhm.
that road. As a matter of fact, I was coming up there just this afternoon, and took a photograph just off of Multi. One of the
Mhm.
recently installed traffic light is hanging now.
Yep.
Oh Lord.
It means it wasn't
Oh,
installed properly. And this is within the last month and a half. Those traffic lights between Multilateral and, let's say, East the Penton's police station were
Yeah.
installed there. One
Yep.
is hanging,
mhm.
could fall on somebody's vehicle at any given moment, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just those lands there used to be pasture. It used to be cane field. Cows
Mm-hmm.
still graze there. Just
Mm-hmm.
last evening, a car crashed into two cows there,
Yeah.
killed them on the spot,
Yeah.
right? So while
Well,
the idea is a good one, the leadership, the
Yep.
foresight that is
Yep.
mhm.
needed to make sure these things
It's not there.
function properly and efficiently. Exactly,
Yeah.
David. It is
Right.
It's
absolutely not there. This is the probably the first road in the world, Kathy.
Yeah.
A good concept that was open that didn't
Mm-hmm.
finish. By the
Mm-hmm.
time you get to that road, you gotta go through a street, come through, go through, and then bottlenecks all over the place.
So,
If
yes.
the road isn't finished, give it time
yep.
Mhm.
to do properly.
Yep. Yep.
Give it
Because
time to finish properly.
yeah, Sharon, you know that I live on the East Bank and I battle the traffic all the time.
Yeah.
And that road, you know what we should do? I think the next program we're going to ask David Patterson to come on the program, and I would like him to show you the video and the modeling of what that road was supposed to be.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
road was going to have two lanes in each direction, plus an extra lane for turning.
Mhm.
So we were preparing the kind of road that we need not for just 2022, but the kind of road that would serve us
Yeah.
in 2025 and 2030.
Yes.
As we put
Yes.
more and more cars on the road, we have to start thinking and building not for now, but for the future, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that road, I have gone on that road and you could go 5 minutes. The first time I went on it, I said, this is great. 5 minutes from Mandela right up to the end of the road. And then I proceeded to take 35 minutes to
Wow.
go what should be
That's the
another
point
five
you're
minutes
making.
because
Yeah.
they opened the road,
That's
but
not
the dump
finished.
site
Make it
road that
unfair.
you, yeah, but the dump site road that you had to connect on was not fixed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that just got worse and worse and became a disaster.
And
And
it's the
that is,
same thing. It's the same thing, Kathy, with the extension because they've
yep,
opened the extension. They said I saw an article, a report that says the police commissioner visited and okayed it. And then
yep,
when I used it quite recently, it diverts you through some side street because the road of itself is not done. And
yep,
then when you get through the side street, you come out further, then you should come out. So
yep,
it's not really cutting down the time when you look at it. They gotta spend some time. It's not
yep,
just enough to do things. You gotta do things right.
Yeah, you
right.
have to do things right. You
And
know,
and that is the culture. And I think, Devin, I remember hearing of a few things
yes.
in your area where we seem to be wasting money again. Why in Guyana we can't get it right the first time and do a proper job?
No, it's not a crookishness happening, man. You know, these guys want to continue contracts, so they do foolishness the first time so that they could be awarded the contract again
Yeah,
to make more
yeah,
money,
we've seen that.
right? We have similar instances here in Region 10. A couple of weeks ago, Minister Edgel mentioned that they're releasing some $800 million toward road development and repairs or whatever. Really and truly, that money should have gone through the region, but it did not. Again, from the high-handed approach to things, central government intervened and did the roads. But the contractors who are awarded, two problems I have. The contractors who are awarded the projects were not from Linden or and hardly employed Lindeners is one. And two, they did some inferior roads. Imagine there's a street we call Pine Street, which is one of the main streets in Linden. So they had done the road the first time, I believe, when they got into government. They got some problems. They did some repairs, some patch work. They did the entire road all over again. We welcome that. You know, everybody was like, "Yes, things happening." But then when the flood water rainfall, the flood water raised and covered over the entire road. So how you gonna do the road? And you're doing drains. What
Yeah.
kind? I hope I can say this here. What kind of cockwork they giving me?
Yeah,
And even
yeah,
when even the roads that they're doing is like 1 inch thick. A heavy vehicle cannot even drive on that road properly.
Hmm.
And that is the sort of work we're getting here in Region 10. And I'm pretty sure around the country as well. We need proper roads. If you're going to, we want half baked or half done projects. We want the full thing, the full length.
Mhm.
All right. So if you know you can't do it, you're going to need some time. Take your time, get it done, so that the people of Guyana can benefit and feel the impact of a proper project.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what we're lacking. And
Even
leadership.
I
Leadership.
Yeah.
even I heard one of your regional representatives and leaders describe what is happening in infrastructure in Linden this way. The individual said Linden is the testing grounds for new contractors.
Oh, oh yes,
That's what they
oh
said.
yes.
When
Now
you
let me
see some of the work they're doing, this is testing ground.
Mhm.
let me
Just
Mhm.
go
tell
and
you.
test out in Linden and then just go and do the right
Yeah,
thing other places.
yeah.
Yep.
That's what happened. I think I shared this last week of a contractor. According to the scope of work, he needs to wash the school down first and then paint. He decided to just go and slab on the paint without
Yeah,
washing it.
paint
What we
over the
think that?
marks, everything.
Yeah, paint over the
Right?
mask, right?
I see
And
folks too, they even got a school in a certain area, a construction of a school, and there was a lot of pushback publicly. They fought through that,
mhm.
and now I hear the project stall. You
Yeah, the
know,
project style
Yep.
because the contractors don't know what they're
they
doing.
said the contractors weren't
Right?
qualified in this area. They were qualified in
Mhm.
other things and so on, but not in construction of schools and so on.
So
And they
hopefully,
fought through that. Now the whole project stopped.
Well,
the
now we have contractors that never ever built anything
mhm.
getting huge contracts,
Yeah,
over 200
yeah,
million dollar contracts.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
Testing, testing
they're
out.
coming from the private sector. They're
Yeah,
coming from all kinds of different
yeah.
areas of work.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Kathy,
and
Kathy, we had an issue with K2, and
Yes.
they're fighting through again to give the
Yep.
other K2 schools. That's the
Yep.
challenge we have. I saw David Patterson pointed out that he was following some companies qualifying for
Hmm.
contract with
Hmm.
Empatab,
Hmm.
and then he noticed that some that didn't pre-qualify bid in. So
Yep.
he's looking to see what happened. It's like the whole place in free fall.
Run-ins.
People don't understand. You don't want to be critical of the administration just to be critical sake.
yeah,
But the things are just so glaring.
mhm.
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
do agree. And Kathy and Sharon, one of the things that us as Guyanese have to remember that if a street is being done in your area, you have the right to ask the contractor, let me see your scope of work. Let me have an idea of what this project is about. Ask questions. Don't just, all right, contractors come here to do a road or build some, put up
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
Ask questions. And, sometimes that is where we err because when they're finished, it's not like if you can go and tell them anything.
Hmm.
Ask them for the scope of work. You might not understand it. Ask somebody who does. So you have an idea of what you're getting.
Yeah, that's a very important point because I think traditionally, and we understand it traditionally, Guyanese don't want to have to fight. You know, I don't mean this in a negative way, but I think I could say it because I lived in Jamaica for 7 years.
We are peaceful people,
That
Kathy.
we are a
Struggling, we
peaceful
struggle.
people.
We don't look for
That is
trouble.
true. That is so true. We're a peaceful people. But we got to understand, like you use that example of the road. Finally, this road in your community is going to be fixed. They got to do it right. They
Gotta do
got
it
to do
right.
it right because once they do it once, they're going on to some other area the next year and the year
Yes,
after and the year
that's
after
great.
to fix their roads. And they're
Mhm.
going to assume that you get a road last year. Why are we coming back to do your road
Yeah,
again?
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
So citizens themselves have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
And what I want to say to the citizens is that the good thing we have right now is social media, which we didn't have 20 and 30 years ago. Somebody doesn't fix your road properly, you take pictures and you put the name of the contractor.
Hmm.
Shame
Hmm.
them. Shame
Yes.
them into having to go back and fix it and to do it properly. Because
Yes.
as citizens, that is our taxpayers' money.
Hmm.
It's
It
not a
is.
political party or somebody writing in the government writing a personal check. It's
Yeah.
money from our taxes, our money that is fixing these things. And we
Hmm.
want it to be
Yeah.
done at a level so that we start to see an increase and an improvement
Yeah.
in the infrastructure in our villages, in our communities.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's hurting me.
It
It's
is.
hurting me that we had created and put internet in so many places and they're not building on it, they're not expanding. In this day and age, people in school, children in schools, in RDC offices, in community centers, in as many places as possible, people should not have to pay for internet. You know, a couple years ago, the UN head of the United Nations said that internet is now a human right. Because imagine in places where there are no teachers, there are no schools,
Yeah.
internet allows our children to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Internet
Yeah.
allows us to pay a bill if
Yeah.
you are in Surama, instead of having to go and pay a minibus driver $6,000 and $7,000 to go
Yeah.
from Surama all the way to Latem to pay some of your bills. That is
Yeah.
the reality.
Yeah.
You know, to
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
cash out of a bank,
Yeah.
you know? So these are the things that we should have expanded. There were more than 200 more ICT hubs that should have been implemented by now
Mhm.
under the hinterland, poor and remote communities. And these are ICT hubs in Berbice, in
Mhm.
Essequibo, in the
Yes.
hinterlands,
Yes.
all over the countries. We're not seeing this. And
Yeah.
the little that we put in, we're not building on and improving and maintaining. Each time we started from scratch again,
Mhm.
you know? So there's a
Yeah.
whole attitude changing
Yeah.
that we
And
need
Kathy,
to do.
interestingly too, if we had to
Yeah.
examine it, the internet has a part to play in your democratic norms. People get very vocal.
Mhm.
Yes.
I think them boys don't want that, because they seem to have a problem with social media. We
Yes.
see how they've misapplied this, the cybercrime legislation. They have a
Mm-hmm.
problem with you stating your views.
Mm-hmm.
They have,
Yeah.
and social media, the internet has the potential of amplifying those views.
Yep.
Very true.
Yep.
Something is done in Sarama, the whole world could know about it in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
That's the power of it. We ain't got to wait for somebody go and
Come back.
type something, type a copy, and then go back and print and all that. It's instant. That's the
Yep.
trouble they have, and they aren't. Kathy, mark my words. We've been saying this all along. They are not prepared for the internet age because they become obsolete.
Yep. Yep.
Right? You see, look at the modus operandi. The government always got to be up in your face. You always got
Mhm.
to be asking the government for something. The services must never
Handouts.
function
Handouts.
properly. Handouts. And then
Yeah.
they got to go, you got to put a mala around the neck and they got to flash a photograph and you see, we are the saviors.
Yep.
If things function as they should, they become obsolete. If the system should function as it should, that's what they have a problem with.
Yep. Yep. Well, we can take this opportunity to say that once we have a clean list, we are going to be going to local government elections. And
Yes, sir.
this is where, for our viewers, we want you to really start thinking on who in your community you are going to put up to run. And I want people to know that the AFC, the Alliance for Change, has always been very strong on supporting independent candidates. Independent candidates too. So if the best person in your community don't want to run under a political party, let them run as an independent and support them,
Yeah,
because at the
knowledge
end
is
of the
important.
day,
It's not much party
we
you run.
want
Yeah,
your system to work in your communities.
yeah,
Mhm.
You gotta choose people that gonna do the work and gonna make sure that the communities start to grow. Better
Mhm.
education, better drainage, better all the things that we expect and we deserve. We
Yeah.
must not take a little $20,000 and a $30,000 handout when this country is supposed to be the richest country, in one of the richest in the world. And
Yes.
instead of a 20,000, maybe we each should be getting a 300,000 every year,
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
because
yeah,
that's the money we
yeah,
getting now.
yeah.
So
Kathy,
don't
I
lower
heard you
your
talk about it.
standards, people.
I heard you talk about the 30,000, and some parents reminded me. They say from that 30,000, let's say the school cash grant, they say
Yeah,
5,000 contingency fee,
yeah.
right? And then if it seems like a prerequisite now, you go to lessons. They don't talk about lessons when they talk about the 1%, they got all these high schools and so on. They says
Yep.
the mid, they say another 5,000 is lessons, 6,000 is lessons.
It's
So by the
true.
time you
Yes.
dig out of the 30,000, the rest is really and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of money we're spending for truth. It's a
Yep.
lot. It's a
Yeah,
Yep.
lot.
but Kathy, I want to circle back to what you talk about with local
Sure.
government and how we
Mm-hmm.
should approach it in terms of starting to identify your counselors, your prospective counselors, and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks News in an editorial this morning made two points I want to highlight. One about GCOM, the chairman in particular,
Mm-hmm.
and one
Mm-hmm.
about local government.
Mm-hmm.
Devin was talking earlier on about the NDC, the RDC rather being bypassed. And the RDC is
Yep.
one of the structures in local government. You got the NDCs, you got the municipalities as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Starbucks News, fairly middle of the road. Sometimes I believe they're pro-government. Here is Starbucks News
Mm-hmm.
this morning talking about the administration um, reluctance to hold local government election. It says here that one suspect that the government isn't keen on holding local government elections.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they would see it as an unnecessary expense and a
Mm-hmm.
distraction from their quote unquote transformational stuff it's busy doing and those overseas trips.
Mm-hmm.
Also, newly elected councils might get the strange idea about the independence of local government bodies that are unsuitable for a party that commands from the center.
Mm-hmm,
Yep.
mm-hmm.
Yep. I read that. So true.
Starbucks, Starbucks News, and them Starbucks News saying them guys are ready for time with local government elections.
Uh,
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
it's an inconvenience.
Yep.
but I know,
So
Kathy and Sherwood, I
yeah.
just want to share something with our viewers out there. And,
Mm-hmm.
governance starts with us because we are the voters, we're the electorate, we're the ones who put even us as MPs into the positions that we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
But
came
it
through the local
starts.
government system, my dad.
Yeah, me too. I came to I served from 2016 to 2018, and
Right.
I understand that at the community level, even when you break up the word community, it
Mm-hmm.
really means common
Mm-hmm.
unity, right? And that means the folks in your area, in your constituency, must come together and have one unity whereby you want to see development not only for yourself, but the generations to come. As
Yep.
long as you have that unity, well, then therefore you can
Mm-hmm.
support one another who you believe that is best suited to represent you at the NDC or the municipality. Put yourself in an organization. We're
Mm-hmm.
hoping if you're running, of course, join the Alliance for Change. That is, we're encouraging you to
Yep.
join us, join the
Yep.
winning party. And then
Yep.
with that way, with mobilizing, having a solid organization and that common unity, well, then we can have progress. And
Mm-hmm.
once long as we have progress, well, then we would have accomplished what we can, and then we can leave that to for the other generation, the generation coming to follow with what we would have done, and we leave that legacy. And that is how we have to approach governance.
Yep.
Sometimes as leaders, we want to hold on to a seat. You can be 60, 70 years old, still holding on and fighting for power. Give the young
Yep.
people a chance. And I'm hoping in this local
Absolutely.
government election, we'll give birth to the new politicians, those that would lead this country into
Mm-hmm.
a successful future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love what you say about the young people, Devin, and that's why it's so good to have yourself and of
Young
course
even,
Sharon,
young even.
young Devin. Yes, because the reality is that people like me, we did our time.
Yeah,
We did our time. We're
But
still
it's
there
Kathy,
still
I have more to
it's still
say.
your
supporting.
time,
I
Kathy. It's
know
still
it's
your
I'm
still
time.
saying
our
that.
time, but we
Saying that.
want to be able to help to put the young generation into those positions.
Yes,
And it's a good thing you're raising because local government is a great place for them to start. You know?
Yeah, but
So I'm saying
And
to the
Kathy,
young
go
I'm
ahead, Kathy.
saying to
Sorry.
the young people, step forward because sometimes, we have this terrible thing in Ghana where we say, I ain't depender, it ain't making sense. I doing my own thing.
yeah, yeah,
And
Yeah,
if we each just looking and trying to do we own thing, we ain't getting to building that community around where we
yes.
live, you know? Sharon, you were going to say something.
yeah. I was only going to add. that
Mhm.
we got to come back to the broader issues that underpin elections like the local government elections. And you did mention it, a clean voters list.
That's
You
Yep.
right.
know, we're
That's
aiming for the biometric data to be
Yep.
right.
used. We got to come into the modern world, man. We are
Mhm.
under how much? Under a million folks. Kathy, how the folks in Kenya and so on managing with 30 million, 40 million
And
people? You
India
know, how
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Indians
other
manage
places. Yeah.
effortlessly. You could imagine if you transpose this commission in India, they
Yep.
having elections in 500 years.
Yeah.
With the complexity we can bring to it,
Yep.
you know, we got to solve these problems. And one,
Mhm.
I think what Sabak News was doing this morning, I don't think they really wanted to call out the chair because they're a little professional like that. But the chair is a problem. The chair
Mhm.
is a problem. Sabak
Mhm.
News was making the point, Kathy, that
Mhm.
other chairmen have been, you know, you got this split on
Yep.
both sides.
Yeah. The
That's
three,
already a
three.
tinderbox there. It's already
Right.
there's already a tinderbox there. The
Yeah.
other commissioners and the reference Suraj Bali had to build consensus.
Yep.
You had to know how to massage situations and build consensus and talk to people,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's equals. I think they mentioned that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Give and
Sabak
take.
News, Sabak News makes the point that Claudia
Mhm.
Singh's operates as though she's still a judge
Yep.
and actually writes out decisions she's taking. And I want to
Mhm.
quote what Starbuck News said because I don't want to be do
Please
injustice
do.
to the chairman nor to Starbuck News. Starbuck News makes this point. It says to be chairman demands more than delivering rulings. And currently, the chairperson is simply managing the decline of the credibility of the
Yep.
Guyana Elections Commission as
Yeah.
an institution and
Yeah.
Wow.
allowing its capture by the political class.
Yep.
That's the PPP they're talking about.
Yep.
She is
Well,
managing, Kathy, the decline of the
decline.
credibility of the Guyana Elections Commission.
Mhm. Well, Sharon, that's
That's an
Starbuck News
indictment.
has said it really in an excellent way.
Yeah,
And we know also that a couple months ago, when our IRI did that survey, and these are, a very reputable organization,
yeah,
did a survey of people's views in Guyana and across racial lines, across ages, across gender. There was a very high, I think it was 80 something percent of people had no confidence in
yeah,
our electoral system,
yeah. And
you
Kathy,
know?
I want to hasten to
And that
add,
is worrying because if we don't believe that we can have a fair election, how are we going?
Yeah.
but
Yes,
Kathy,
Sharon.
that IRI report, those polls, the poll
Yep.
IRI took, was assailed by Gail Teixeira. I want to underscore that.
Yep.
The Minister of Governance by saying they didn't have permission and something, something. But the poll was done and there was a result. Fair
Yep.
enough. That came and went. The Lala poll was conducted recently and it said
Mhm.
almost the same thing.
Yep.
People rather having food on the table, clothes on the back, than talking about governance and elections in this country.
Hmm.
That's
No,
what the
that's
poll
true.
said. Because it
That's
goes to
true.
confidence again. If I'm not confident in the system, why am I going there? Why
Yep.
am I going there? Look, look how this translates into the daily lives of people. We were at success recently in the cane field with the squatters. And you know what they tell us? Don't tell me about the election. We don't want to hear about it. We're done with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because some of them
Uh,
voted for this very government who don't care what happens there. As a matter of fact, this was the administration that flooded them out, pellet them, shot at them with
Yep.
live rounds, women, single
mm,
parents,
Yep.
just want to
Yep.
shelter over their head and treating them
Yep.
with the most disdain you can imagine.
And just
That's
recently,
what
I
we're
know
hearing
I
from the
saw
ground.
you. Yeah, and Sharon, just recently I saw you in Independence Boulevard in All
Oh
Boys Town,
my,
where
oh
they're
my.
being the bulldoze.
Yeah,
Nobody's brought any checks.
mm,
Nobody's brought any money to say after I broke
yeah,
down your
yeah.
building.
Where you going?
Here is 100,000,
Yeah,
a 10,000 to put food to build another place back. They're not giving
yeah.
anybody any homes. And
yeah,
Sharon, the other thing we need to talk about is housing. Because
Mm,
how years ago a house lot could be $58,000 for a low income house lot, and now we expect people to pay close to a
300.
million dollars.
Yeah. Well,
That's the
you
challenge
know,
we got.
Kathy, one of the things that we as a government had done is that if we're going to give you a house lot, we're not just giving you a house lot in the wilderness. We clear it down, we provide a road, electricity, and water, and
Yep.
we still manage to keep the cost of those lands down. And
Mhm.
rightfully, we have a land sell being sold up to $1 million. Up
Yeah.
here in Linden, a 50 by 100 lot is close to $400,000. And
Wow.
even persons who are fortunate enough to get a house lot, they
Mhm.
actually have to go to the bank and take out a loan just to pay for that house lot, and then it will take 2 3 how many years
Yeah.
to repay that, and then they
Yeah.
got to go to and take out a mortgage. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yep. It's
And
Yeah.
building
it's
a house
unreal.
now is not a $2 million project.
Not
You
really
have to
faint hearted.
pay. Yeah, you got to pay at least $20 million upward to get a decent home. And the
Yeah.
government is
Yeah.
constantly boasting about, we took that off of steel and taxes off of this construction material, etc. and whatnot. The common man is not feeling that,
No. No.
right? I don't
Who
even
building the house with
believe,
steel? Which
Yeah.
public servant building the house with that kind of steel?
that's a
Yeah.
that's a serious deal, right?
Yep.
So things really tough, and even here, what we're experiencing, the thousand house lots, which are going to be allocated, is close to a prospective mine for bauxite, with I think over 8 to 9 million metric tons, something of that nature.
Oh
It's
wow.
next to a mining site. Now, if you're going to be mining in an area, it's not just here. Right next to the mining site, there's where the housing scheme ends. If you're going to mine for bauxite there, you have to take up much more, because remember, you have to go in a spiral all the way down. So it's
Mhm.
not bauxite is not just to the top. So even with that, it was brought up with to CHMP, but it was ignored. Now we
Yeah,
talked about
and
oil, but how you forgetting your traditional industry, bauxite. Oil is not going to last
you know
forever.
what?
So even
Yeah.
careful planning needs to be done. Yes.
Yeah. Sharon.
I'm
Mhm.
happy you mentioned that. Careful planning needs to be done because Kathy's husband might better be able to explain this than I can. But they tell you in law that when you come to a nuisance like bauxite and dust and noise to build, you can't now claim it's a nuisance because you knew where you're going to. I know people would be happy for pixel land wherever right now. But when you
Yes.
build and the dust blowing in your house and you can't hang out your clothes and you're caught and the nice and this and that, you can't now come and say, oh, the bauxite thing down there, nicey, because you knew where you were coming to when
Yeah.
you're coming. When you come to
Yeah.
the nuisance, it's different than when the nuisance was created and brought
Mhm.
to you. It's quite different.
Mhm.
And so the people got to be
Yep.
on guard with that and make the observations now that you want a
Mhm.
house not in areas that are actually suited for housing.
Yep. Yep.
One more point I want to make. Even with I saw in the newspaper where they're running the gas ashore project. Those acres they're giving out, I think up to $4 million per acre,
Yep.
right? And the same needs to be applied if you're going to be demolishing people's homes for whatever reason, developmental project. Compensate them properly.
Yep.
Give the
Yep.
people what they deserve.
And I know about that project just because I have a family member who was asked to give up some of their lands in that same area. And one of the things that they are not taking into consideration, and it's not just my family member, but there were a lot of other individuals from the canal area and from the area close to where the pipeline is going to go through, that said at the engagement yesterday, these are our lands.
Mhm.
These lands have been in our families for, in some cases, coming back 100 years,
Yes,
you
yes.
Yeah,
know, 50 years. And therefore, 4 million
yeah,
doesn't compensate
yeah.
for
The history we got on this
years,
land.
the history, the
Yeah,
years of working that
yeah,
land,
yeah,
the connection of family,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And people were upset yesterday because they thought that it was coming to have a discussion about the project and what was going to happen. And they were more or less coming to say, we
Buy
want to
out.
move you, we want to
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
quick, so take a
Kathy,
4 million,
you
you
know
know.
what is my fear? You know what is my fear? When they sell out those lands, the island, the pipeline might even drop nowhere close, and then they say it's friends and family time. It's nice
Exactly.
time for other people.
Yep, yep, yep. So,
Right?
gentlemen, I hate to tell you, but we are out of
We
time.
are.
Oh my,
We are
already?
out of time. But we've had a lovely discussion today, and I want to say, especially to our viewers in Berbice, we've touched on things happening all across Guyana, and I think it's good for us to get a sense every now and again on what's happening in different places. We
Yeah.
got to treat each other right. We got to be fair, and we do want to say to our leaders, to our listeners, you got to be the change you want to see
Right.
in
Yeah.
your communities. Don't sit
Yes.
down and take it. Take a
Hmm.
picture if the take a photo if the roading wasn't done properly. Put it on social media because guess
Correct.
what? A
Hmm.
lot of things are being done just because when it gets on social media, they shame. And that's
Yeah.
when they start acting.
Yeah.
Call Sherrod and tell him so we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
discuss it in the ring.
Yeah. 627-696 is the number. Send your photographs and the videos. We can publish it for you.
Wonderful,
That's
Keep
wonderful.
your name out in the public. Yeah.
Sherrod Duncan, Member of Parliament, Devon Sears, Member of
Honorable
Parliament.
suspended member, brother.
Yes, yes. Sorry, all.
Oh my God.
But we want to say thank you for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Kathy Hughes. Wonderful to be with you. Have a good, safe week and all the
Yes.
best.
Have
Take
a great
care.
weekend,
Take,
guys. Have
take
a great
care.
weekend.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.